the next 2 weeks, we're enjoying the epic beauty of Robe, where the scenery is stunning, but the sand and ocean can be punishing. It can also be a lot of fun.
The tide was coming in and we really needed to get a wriggle on.
That, guys, is the end of the road, unless anybody wants to risk it. This week on Life Off-Road.
We all arrived towards the latter end of the day. The sun was setting over this amazing coastal little village. Stunning scene to start off our journey.
This morning we met up at the bakery. Weren't quite sure what to expect, but it turns out we fit right in. It was fantastic, get to meet everyone, and it's awesome to see all these sorts of vehicles with a wide variety of capabilities all driving together, and we thought we'd better get this trip underway.
Anthony, welcome back. We've seen you on the show before, but great to have you along for another trip, and you're here representing Bushwhacker.
My name's Anthony. I'm from Off-Grid 4x4. We are the South Australian stockist and distributor of Bushwhacker camping gear. I brought along my GU Patrol. It's my personal car. On top of that, it's got the penthouse. It's got the 270-degree darkness. I love their gear. As you know, the boys from Bushwhacker Queensland based. We're in sunny South Australia, so it made more sense for me to come along being Adelaide based myself.
James, where are we heading today, and what sort of maps and tracks have you got ahead for us?
We are going to be having some fun on the sand dunes south of Robe. Fortunate to have around 200 tracks in Robe and Mount Gambier that have been assessed by our user base, so we can actually see where other people have driven and the types of cars that they've been driving to help us figure out where we want to have a play.
Really good mix of vehicles. We've got Simon's Iveco, an Isuzu dual cab truck, 2 patrols, and we had the PX3 Ranger as well. And we had the tank behind me that squeezed in between all these monster vehicles.
Michael from Piranha, welcome along for another trip.
Yeah, great to be here, Simon. Doesn't seem like that long ago was on the last one with the Strathbogie Ranger.
He chose violence. No mercy on that Ranger heading up those rocks.
So we haven't even caught up, there's still damage and bits to deal with, and see if we can do more things to add to the list.
Everyone's getting pretty keen. The first thing you do before you hit any sand track, drop the tyres down. Your future you will thank you, and your vehicle will thank you as well. It's a lot nicer on the tracks.
Despite how capable a driver or car is, sand sometimes is the great equaliser.
Damer, you've got the big Isuzu along. It's a wicked looking rig. Tell us a little bit about it.
Isuzu's finest NPS four-wheel drive. We make about 50 horsepower standard, but this one's been tricked up a little bit.
When we first got it, it was slow. But we did 2 things, which is what we do to the majority of your trucks. We put one of our cold side intercooler pipes on it, which is a reliability modification. And then of course we got into the factory ECU and we tuned the thing. And you're probably not going to believe, we went from 57 kilowatts to 150 kilowatts. It absolutely transforms the vehicle. So if you want to find out more, you head over to our website, read a bit more about our products, our services. Very happy to talk through your goals, your aspirations, and see if we're the right business for you.
The campground was pre-booked and it was a good opportunity to lighten the load, set up a bit of camp, take our gear out.
It's just a quick stop off in camp. In our case, we have a big jack on, jack off camper, connected the electric legs, lowered it to terra firma, and we were pretty much ready to tackle the beach.
Everyone's running around setting up camp. When I realised I made the right choice. If you pick the right rooftop tent, it's not a chore. It literally takes 10 seconds to set up, 10 seconds to pack up, all your bedding's already up there, what more do you want? One of the cool things with the Bushwhacker is they've just over-engineered everything. 2 latches come undone and you just give it a little nudge, the gas struts do all the work for you. They've just thought about everything. The steps on the ladder, they're just so much more thicker, so you just get up there way more comfortable. There's USB-C and normal USB for charging your phone. The canvas is so thick on this thing, and on cold nights, it is worth the investment. This isn't the only tent they do, they cater for everyone, guys. Check them out. Johnny, the owner of Bushwhacker, definitely isn't a first-time camper until he uses the product.
Here it was lunchtime, hadn't hit the beach yet. The window opportunity before high tide came in was relatively short, so we hoped we could do most of the beach run before high tide.
The ocean wasn't exactly calm, it was angry.
Keeping in mind of what the tide was doing, we had to trek on the beach before tide came up and posed a couple of challenges for us.
Here we go, guys, pulling out onto the beach now.
It was a really special moment once we finally hit the beach.
It's always cool going with a bunch of people that haven't done beach driving their whole life, and you just get to see the reactions. First time they've driven on beach, it's just a cool thing to be a part of.
We all turned out to be 10 years old and behind the wheel, just having a bit of fun in the sand.
Yeah, you can definitely get those fishtails going, James.
I don't know what you're talking about, Wildcard.
The weather was a bit grey, it was a bit cloudy, but a bad day at the beach is still better than a good day at work.
The ocean wasn't exactly calm, it was angry. It definitely reminded us that the tide was coming in, and when you really needed to get a wriggle on, hopefully nothing gets stuck.
The window opportunity before high tide came in was relatively short.
Last thing you want to do is get a car stuck below that high tide mark and you'll lose it.
You're not able to drive all the way along the beach from one end to the other. There's certain sections that are cut off by natural obstacles like cliffs and whatnot. Every now and then you would have to cut inland a little bit.
I saw that tough dog just work its way magically over some of those whoops.
That was a little bit too much.
Turns out Isuzu MPS four-wheel drive trucks are not fantastic at taking whoops.
Well done.
Despite the horrendously expensive suspension in it, it was not exactly comfortable.
Regardless of whether you're on the beach or not, it's great fun driving down here.
One of the great aspects visiting Robe is that we've got a lot of users using the NewTrax mapping platform that have explored the area and have recorded their trips, and therefore most trails have been rated and assessed. And that's really part of the appeal of the NewTrax platform, because you can actually see where other people have driven before you, you can see the type of vehicle that they've driven, and you can see the difficulty rating of each of the tracks. It's just a crucial piece of kit to help you on your forward driving adventures.
So out of those inland tracks again, back on the beach.
Every time we popped back out onto the beach, it was almost like nature's clock. You had the angry waves crashing onto the beach, but they were getting eerily close.
The high tide is coming in and we need to get a bit of a wriggle on. The last thing we want to be done is to have that big Isuzu truck stuck on the beach with the tide coming in. Sorry, Damo.
That's okay, mate. I'm used to it by now.
I've actually got waterproof speakers installed in my patrol, so I'm pretty well set.
Did a loop around and we parked up at the mouth of the exit, which is a very, very steep climb.
Come up around the side, guys, get away from the water.
We took advantage of that opportunity, so we lined up all the vehicles at the front, stood on the roofs of the vehicles and took some funny photos. Quite a fun time.
Right after that photo shoot, as we were cutting inland, there was a relatively steep embankment that had a slope to it. Almost like IndyCar, where you can kind of climb the bank of the wall and then come down again, which was pretty cool. There was kind of two options. You either back off and maybe not make it, have to reverse and start again, or you just bang it, and just floor it and just see what happens. I tend to err on the side of always doing the second one, and in this particular instance, it worked out for me.
Woo! I just couldn't believe how the MPS went. 4.5 ton sinks very, very quickly. So momentum and tyre pressure is absolutely key, but it absolutely ate it up. Well done, Isuzu.
Coming back inland, the tracks are definitely getting a little bit tighter.
It opened up and had absolutely spectacular views.
Soon after we navigated through some inland sections, we found ourselves back onto the beach. Very quickly over the radio, we heard,
Copy, Simon.
Go ahead, Max.
Camera car is bogged.
Whilst driving along this inland track, it opened up and it had absolutely spectacular views.
How beautiful is this?
Copy, Simon.
The only problem was
Go ahead, Max.
these views were spoilt by a Tank 500 that was bogged to its boards.
Camera car is bogged.
We can see you from here. What are you doing way around there? Holy hell. All right, convoy, we've got our first recovery and it was none of us.
That tide's coming in too, so we might have to make quick work of that one.
We're on our way, buddy, we're on our way.
It's pretty close to the tide coming in there, isn't it? They float those tanks, don't they?
This Tank 500, it's brand new off the showroom floor. It's a loan car. It's got no kit at all on it other than what the factory provides.
I think what happened there, they missed their exit and they've jumped on the brakes. And one of the worst things you can do on a soft beach is jump on the brakes because your car will just dig. So they jumped on the brakes, it's dug in a little bit, they've tried to back up and got themselves into a bit of a mischief.
Well, let's have a look and see if we can get it to drive out, actually. We are actually testing the limits and capabilities of this Tank 500. This is a stock standard vehicle, straight off the factory floor. It's had nothing at all done to it. Factory tyres, it has been doing a superb job. Max, he's found the limits, he's got it stuck. Go, 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 go.
So there's a lot of stuff happening, but the car's still in the same spot.
So in the end, it was a winch job.
All right, I'll get you to run the winches.
He's got a good team happening there with his missus. Probably the most coordinated husband-wife I've ever seen do a recovery. Holy heck, normally it's good comedy.
Yeah, he's super easy for me to do.
Where do you connect this recovery to? There's no tow bar even on this car that you might be able to use. It does have a factory tie-down point which you wouldn't want to snatch off, but for a gentle, slow winch recovery with some caution, that's going to be okay to just gently pull it backwards. And that worked.
And then the Superman component of Simon came into play and he goes, I'm just going to drive that out.
So one of the basic aspects of driving on sand in four-wheel drive is to let your tyre pressures down and try to avoid really, really loose stuff. But really, rule number one is if you do get bogged and happen to recover yourself out, definitely don't go right back into the same situation only to have to recover yourself back out. I feel like that's a given, but worth saying nonetheless, as you can see with what's happening behind me. This is yet another PSA from James the Intrax.
There's nothing worse than when something doesn't quite go to plan in front of a whole heap of mates.
Here comes the tide.
Would you like me to have a crack?
What happened, Simon?
We're going to stuck worse.
But look, credit where credit's due, he got it done. Definitely a thick skin on that one, but that was all very funny.
From one tank to another, here's Tough Dogs.
Tank 300 setup and what we've done to it. First and foremost is a suspension lift. We do have a 50mm lift for this vehicle, a whole heap of options in terms of shocks, springs, upper control arms and airbags. That is obviously dependent on what accessories you've got. I've fitted this one out with the foam cell non-adjustables. They cater for different terrain. You don't have to jump out and adjust them. We do have the adjustable option as well. You can really dial that in. A roof platform to throw some gear on top, some recovery points in the front. Just doing a couple of little mods like we did, you can almost make it unstoppable. Having sorted the stuck camera car situation, we took on the inland track
along up to Robe.
We noticed on our way just an utterly incredible view off to the left. So we all decided to pull over there. We all went for a bit of a walk. Just unbelievable, just a sheer cliff face, really, really shaly.
I'm not quite sure what the history of it is, but it seemed like an old coral reef. But it was really quite amazing how the geology has formed over time. It's really interesting.
It was only as we got back to our cars that we remembered.
It's not very far from high tide, so
We jumped back in the cars and continued to follow this inland track. To our surprise, we actually got a little bit of rough terrain, a bit of a rocky section.
On the road again. Oh, Lord. We did happen to find a couple of rocky sections that threw the cars around a little bit. It might be a little bit slippery, but luckily for us, we were heading down, so it was no drama for us.
So there's an interesting contrast. So 1 minute you're driving on rocks, 1 minute you're driving on sand, 1 minute you're driving on the beach. So just very interesting terrain to drive.
A bit of a story for anyone who's uneducated on what we call a cab over truck. The reason you call it a cab over is the cab is over the top of the front wheels. What that means, unfortunately, is it doesn't matter how good your suspension is or your suspension seats, you end up with a bit of a pogo-like effect. It definitely makes for some great GoPro footage, let's put it that way.
Should need to get out of it.
So me and Tony were having an absolute great time coming out with these new exciting dance moves that were just coming naturally as we were trying to counterbalance ourselves over the bump.
The comfort is not happening currently.
Got your rear steps back there, guys. That's a nice drop off.
Coming off the inland track, we're back on the beach. As we're coming off that track, it had a half-decent step down on that, where the larger vehicles like the patrols, that had to be careful so they don't catch the rear bar on that.
So while we're doing this, the tide waits for no man. The tide's coming in, and at this stage it's like 3:30 or something, and we're starting to run out of beach. So we've just driven on a section of beach there. High tide has just occurred like 10 minutes ago, and that was a bit squashy through there. So we're back into the hinterland stuff. Bumpy.
Too much mumbo.
And the tracks through here are just a stack of fun.
Just awesome tracks, undulating, challenging, but not car destroying, which is another key component of trips like this. There's no point bringing your vehicle and utterly destroying it just to try and make it further up the beach. It's a fantastic challenge, but very achievable in a normal four-wheel drive.
Jesus. Right guys, we are only just a few kilometres from getting back to Robe. This will be the last section of beach I reckon we're going to do.
Well, considering high tide's just been and gone, we've just squeaked in maybe. So this is a 2020 Ranger PX3, quite a capable package. Piranha Off-Road has been traditionally known for supplying battery trays and battery management for auxiliary battery systems, but now we're into trays, canopies. We now sell bull bars, roof racks, radios, you name it. So while we're still an Australian manufacturer and battery trays and electrical systems is still a big part of our business, you can talk to Piranha about anything to do with your four-wheel drive, should be able to sort you out.
Right guys, the sand's a bit soft up here and far out. We're getting pushed down into it. It doesn't look like we're going to have room to get through maybe. Wow. Nasty side slope there guys, just be careful.
Up ahead, everyone's starting to slow down. We hear on the radio it's a dead end, so we thought, oh heck, better jump out of the car for this one.
Oh guys, we have definitely run out of beach here. Have a look at that. Far out.
The beach just got narrower, narrower, and narrower. And then there was just no beach.
That, guys, is the end of the road, unless anybody wants to risk it.
So thought we'd do the right thing, get out, have a bit of an investigation on foot. So a couple of the boys are having a bit of a venture around there, and look, they're not looking stoked. I could see the sweat on Simon's forehead from where I was standing.
Well, our time with running this itinerary and the tide has not worked in our favour. We've been caught out, guys. This is the end of our day.
Michael from Piranha, who clearly has a screw loose, just randomly hopped in his car and drove around the rest of us and was sitting there ready to go.
Oh, I was Michael going to do it. Michael's going to have a crack. Wild card always comes through.
So I thought, let's give it a go. You know, what's the worst that can happen? All right, go.
Let's do it, into it. And whatever happens, happens.